Alan, are you okay? Jerry's voice came through the phone speaker, but I couldn't form words. My hands were trembling and my knees felt weak against the cold bathroom tiles. My eyes were fixed on the medical report that had just been forwarded from the clinic. Those words spinning repeatedly in my mind. Positive. Congratulations, you're 6 weeks along. I was an omega. That was a biological reality I could never change. But right now, pregnant? My relationship with Jerry hadn't even reached 3 months yet, and now, everything was happening so fast that I could barely breathe. Alan? Baby, what happened? There was concern in Jerry's voice, the kind that used to make me feel warm and safe. But today that concern only scared me more because I knew this news would change everything. I pressed the phone against my ear and tried to keep my voice steady. I need to see you. Right now my voice shook despite my efforts. I couldn't tell him over the phone. This was something that needed to be said face to face. Right now? Alan, I'm at the office. There's an important client. Jerry, please. I cut him off. This is really important. Please. There was silence for a few seconds. Then he sighed. Okay. I'll be there in 2 hours. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, dark circles under my eyes, from 2 weeks of sleepless nights. I thought it was just stress, maybe the flu. But when the morning sickness started and I felt strange changes in my body, I had to go to the doctor. And now here I was, carrying a life inside me, with no idea how Jerry would react. My roommate Cade was knocking on my bedroom door. Hey Alan, breakfast is ready. You coming out? Just give me a minute, I said and quickly washed my face. When I came out, Cade gave me a look, one filled with concern he rarely showed. Dude, seriously, are you all right? You've barely eaten anything for the past 2 days. I nodded but said nothing. How could I tell him? That I was pregnant? That my alpha boyfriend, who was barely committed, was about to become a father? My phone buzzed with Jerry's text. Coming over in an hour. Everything okay? Everything okay? No, nothing was okay. I spent that hour trying to rehearse what I would say. But every sentence I formed in my head sounded wrong. How do you tell someone that their entire life is about to change? That the casual relationship they thought they were in just became the most serious thing they'd ever face? My omega instincts were already kicking in. The need to nest, to protect, to prepare. But I was doing it all alone, in a tiny apartment with a roommate who made video games for a living. Cade noticed my distress and sat down beside me on the couch. Look, I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, you can tell me. We're friends, right? I know, I whispered. I need to talk to Jerry first. He nodded and squeezed my shoulder. All right, but I'm here if you need me. When Jerry's second text came 5 minutes away, my heart started racing. I stood up and paced the living room, my hands clasped together to stop them from shaking. This was it, the moment that would define everything. Would he be happy? Would he panic? Would he even want to be part of this? The doorbell rang and I froze. Cade looked at me, then at the door, then back at me. You want me to get it? No. I'll go? I walked to the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. I opened it and there he was. Jerry, in his perfectly tailored gray suit, looking every bit the successful alpha he was. His cologne hit me immediately. That familiar scent that usually calmed my omega nerves. But today it made everything feel more real, more terrifying. Hey, he said softly, stepping inside. His eyes scanned my face with concern. You look exhausted. What's wrong? I led him to the living room where Cade quickly excused himself, disappearing into his room to give us privacy. Jerry and I sat down on opposite ends of the couch, an unusual distance for us. Normally he'd pull me close, wrap his arm around me, but I needed space right now. If he touched me, I'd break down before I could tell him. Alan, you're scaring me, Jerry said, leaning forward. Please, just tell me what's going on. I took a deep breath, trying to find courage in the air I pulled into my lungs. Jerry, I have something to tell you. And it's not easy. His eyebrows rose and he sat up straighter. You're really freaking me out. What is it? My throat felt tight, the words stuck somewhere between my heart and my mouth. But I forced them out. I'm pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. Complete, crushing silence that lasted at least a minute but felt like hours. Jerry just stared at me, his eyes wide like he'd heard a foreign language. Then he ran his hand through his hair and leaned back against the couch. What? Alan, are you sure? His voice was slow and controlled, dangerously calm. Yes. The doctor confirmed it. 6 weeks, I said, and my voice cracked despite my best efforts to stay composed. Jerry stood up and started pacing around the room. I watched his every movement. His shoulders were tense, his fists clenched. How did this happen, Alan? We were careful most of the time. Most of the time, I repeated, using his own words. Jerry, accidents happen and this has happened. He came back but remained standing this time, not sitting. The physical distance reflected the emotional gap growing between us. Alan, I'm not ready for this. My career just started stabilizing. I don't have that kind of resources, and we're not even at that level in our relationship. His words stabbed into my chest like a knife. Not at that level? Jerry, you told me you loved me. You said I was special to you. I do, Alan. But this is serious. A baby? Right now. His eyes wouldn't meet mine directly, and that told me everything I needed to know. I stood up too, facing him. So what exactly are you saying? I need time to think. He moved toward the door. Time? Jerry, I don't have time. I'm pregnant now. Decisions need to be made. My voice was shaking with anger and hurt. I know, I'll call you. And with that he left, closing the door quietly behind him, leaving me alone. I collapsed back onto the couch, covering my face with my hands. Cade emerged from his room and sat beside me, not saying anything, just being there. And somehow that silent presence was more comforting than any words could have been. Jerry stood at my apartment door exactly 1 hour later, punctual as always. His gray suit fit perfectly on his broad alpha frame, and I could smell the light cologne he always wore. Normally that scent calmed me, satisfied my omega instincts. But today, it only made me more nervous. I gestured for him to come inside, and we both awkwardly sat in the living room. Cade had smartly retreated to his room to give us privacy. Alan, what happened? You sounded so worried on the phone, Jerry said, attempting to take my hand, but I kept mine folded in my lap. If he touched me right now, I might lose control of my emotions completely. Jerry, I need to tell you something, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. And it's not going to be easy to hear. His eyebrows raised and he straightened up a bit. You're making me nervous. What's going on? Seriously? I took a deep breath. These words were stuck in my throat, refusing to come out. But I had to say them. I'm pregnant. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence that lasted at least a full minute, though it felt like hours passed. Jerry just stared at me, his eyes wide as if he'd heard an alien language. Then he dragged his hand down his face and leaned back into the couch. What? Alan, are you absolutely certain? His voice was slow and measured, dangerously composed. Yes. The doctor confirmed it. 6 weeks along, I said, and my voice broke despite my attempts to stay strong. Jerry stood abruptly and began pacing the room. I tracked his every movement. His shoulders were rigid, his hands balled into fists. How did this even happen, Alan? We used protection most of the time. Most of the time, I echoed, throwing his own words back at him. Jerry, these things happen. And now it has. He returned but stayed on his feet this time, maintaining distance. That physical gap reflected the emotional chasm opening between us. Alan, I'm not prepared for this. My job just became stable. I don't have those kinds of resources. And we haven't reached that stage in our relationship. His words pierced through my chest like shards of glass. Not at that stage. Jerry, you said you loved me. You told me I meant something to you. I do love you, Alan. But this is enormous. A child? At this point in our lives? His eyes refused to meet mine directly, and that avoidance told me everything. I rose to my feet, confronting him. So what are you actually trying to say? I need space. Time to process this. He edged toward the door. Space? Jerry, I don't have the luxury of time. I'm carrying a child now. Choices have to be made. My voice trembled with fury and pain. I understand. I'll reach out to you. Then he walked out, shutting the door softly. abandoning me in my moment of greatest need. I sank back onto the couch, burying my face in my palms. Cade came out from his room and settled beside me, offering no words, just his quiet presence. Somehow that wordless support meant more than anything anyone could have said. The next 3 days were torture. 3 entire days where Jerry didn't call, didn't text. I jumped at every notification on my phone, hoping it might be him. But no. Just work emails and random messages from people who didn't matter. Then on the 4th day his text finally came. "Can we meet my place tonight?" I went because part of me still held on to hope that maybe he'd thought things through. Maybe he was ready now for both of us, for me and our unborn child. When I arrived at Jerry's apartment, he was already waiting at the door. His facial expression was neutral, almost rehearsed. He was in professional mode, which scared me even more. We went inside and he got straight to the point. "Alan, sit down. I've done a lot of thinking," he said, taking a seat at his dining table. I sat across from him, my heart pounding violently in my chest. He placed an envelope on the table and slid it toward me. I picked it up with hesitation and opened it. Inside was cash. A lot of cash. My breath caught in my throat. What is this?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "This is for you. And for the baby. Medical costs, whatever you require." Jerry's tone was businesslike, as if he were discussing a transaction rather than our lives. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. You're giving me money? That's your solution?" Jerry finally looked into my eyes, and I saw guilt there, but also firm resolve. "Alan, I'll provide financial support. I'm not running from that responsibility. But I can't continue this relationship. This is too much for me. I'm not mentally or emotionally prepared for a family." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought to hold them back. "So you've already decided?" Without properly hearing me out. "Jerry, this isn't just about money. I wanted you to be with us. Physically present. Emotionally invested." "I'm sorry, Alan, I truly am," he said, and he did look genuinely remorseful. "But sorry wasn't enough. But this is beyond my capacity. I can't force you into anything, and I want you to make whatever decision is best for you. If you keep the baby, I'll provide financial support. If you don't, I'll support that choice too." I stood up, still holding the envelope. "You don't understand, Jerry. I didn't want your money. I wanted you. Your support, your presence. But you're trying to fix everything with cash. Alan, please." "No. I've heard enough," I cut him off. I walked toward the door, throwing the envelope back onto the table. "Keep your money, Jerry. I'll handle this myself." "Alan, wait," he tried to stop me, but I was already out the door. Sitting in my car, I gripped the steering wheel and finally let the tears flow freely. The man I loved, the alpha I considered mine, he'd abandoned me, with money as his parting gift. 2 weeks passed since that last conversation with Jerry. 2 weeks where I heard nothing from him. Not a single word. Initially I was hurt, then angry, and now I just felt numb. My body was showing changes. Subtle but noticeable. My morning sickness had gotten worse, and my scent was shifting too. Omegas usually suppress their scents, but during pregnancy it becomes difficult to control. Cade had definitely noticed, but he never said anything. He was just quietly supportive, cooking meals, giving me space, never asking uncomfortable questions. "Alan, you have a clinic appointment today, right?" Cade called from the kitchen where he was making breakfast. "Yeah, 11 o'clock appointment." I replied from the couch where I was pretending to watch a show on the television, but nothing was actually registering in my brain. "Want me to come with you?" "You shouldn't go alone," he offered, and warmth spread through my chest. This guy, who was technically just my roommate, cared more than the actual father of my child. "No, Cade, it's fine. You're already doing so much for me," I said, trying to smile. Sitting in the clinic's waiting room, I looked around. There were mostly couples. Alphas with their omega partners, protective and attentive. One alpha was fetching water for his partner, another was nervously pacing, and here I was, sitting alone. Jerry's last text from a week ago was still unread on my phone. "Alan, please reconsider the money. I want to help. Financial help. Not physical presence. Not emotional support." "Alan Rivera?" The nurse called my name and I went inside. During the ultrasound, when the technician turned the screen toward me and pointed at a tiny blob. "Look, that's your baby." Something inside me shifted. It was so small, barely recognizable, but real. Alive. Growing inside me. And in that moment, I made my decision. Whether Jerry wanted to be involved or not, I was keeping this baby. Even if I had to do it alone, I would become a parent. "Would you like to hear the baby's heartbeat?" the technician asked. I nodded, and when that fast rhythmic thumping came through the speakers, my eyes filled with tears. This was real. My baby was real. Driving home, I called Jerry. Maybe for the last time, I needed to explain my decision. He picked up on the second ring. "Ellen?" "Jerry, I wanted to tell you, I'm keeping the baby. And I don't need your help. Not financially. Not in any other way." My voice was firm, clear. Silence. Then, "Alan, please be reasonable." "I am being reasonable." "You're not." "Goodbye, Jerry." And I ended the call. Cade was home when I arrived. He looked at my face and understood immediately. "You made your decision?" "Yes," I said. And for the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. "I'm doing this. Even if it's alone." But that night, lying in bed, my hand unconsciously moved to my barely there belly. Alone. That word felt so heavy. But maybe I wasn't alone. It was both of us now. Me and my baby. The following days brought a new rhythm to my life. I started researching everything about omega pregnancies, joining online support groups, reading books about single parenting. Cade became my unofficial birth partner, attending prenatal classes with me when I asked, helping me understand what to expect. He never made me feel like a burden, never complained about the changes in our living situation. One evening while we were having dinner, Cade was eating while I picked at my food because nothing tasted right anymore. He brought up something I'd been avoiding. "Have you thought about telling your family?" he asked carefully. I put down my fork. "Not yet. My parents, they're traditional. An unmated omega getting pregnant, they won't take it well. But they'd want to know, right? Eventually?" "Eventually," I agreed. "But not now. I can't handle their disappointment on top of everything else." Cade nodded, understanding. "What about work? Have you told them?" "I worked part-time at a bookstore. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. I told my manager last week. She was actually really supportive. Said I could reduce my hours as needed." "That's good," Cade said. Then he hesitated. "Alan, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you regret it?" "The baby, I mean?" I looked at him, really looked at him. "No. I'm terrified and I have no idea how I'm going to manage. But I don't regret it. This baby didn't ask to be here. And I'm not going to punish them for Jerry's choices." "You're going to be a great parent," Cade said simply. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror lifting my shirt to look at my stomach. There was a small curve now. Undeniable. I placed both hands on it, feeling the warmth of my own skin. "Hey there, little one," I whispered. "I know this isn't how things were supposed to happen. Your other parent, he's not ready for you. But I am. Or at least I'm trying to be. We're going to figure this out together, okay?" My phone buzzed. Another text from Jerry. "Can we talk, please?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. I'd said everything I needed to say. Now it was time to focus on what mattered. Preparing for my baby, building a life for us, and learning to be strong enough for both of us. Because I wasn't just Alan anymore. I was becoming a parent. And whether Jerry was part of that journey or not, I was going to make sure my child knew they were wanted, loved, and worth everything I had to give. The next morning I woke up to Cade making pancakes. My current craving. As I sat at our small kitchen table, watching him flip them with exaggerated concentration, I realized something important. Family wasn't always about blood or traditional bonds. Sometimes it was about the people who showed up when others walked away. And right now, Cade was more family to me than anyone else. "Thanks," I said as he placed a plate in front of me. "For what?" "For being here. For not judging me. For just everything." He smiled. "That's what friends do, Alan. Now eat. You're feeding for two now." I picked up my fork, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe things weren't perfect. Maybe Jerry had chosen to walk away. But I wasn't alone. And somehow that was enough for now. 3 months had passed since Jerry walked out of my life. 3 months of silence, of learning to navigate this journey without the person I thought would be beside me. My body was transforming in ways I couldn't hide anymore. My belly had developed a noticeable curve. My clothes didn't fit the same way, and my omega scent had shifted to something sweeter, softer. Pregnant omegas naturally emit a different pheromone signature, and even the suppressants I took weren't fully masking it anymore. People at work had started noticing, giving me those knowing looks, though most were kind enough not to pry. Cade had become my anchor through all of this. He'd wake up early to make me breakfast, knowing I could only stomach certain foods at certain times. He'd stock the fridge with ginger ale and crackers for when the nausea hit. He never once complained about the changes in our living situation, never made me feel like a burden. Sometimes I'd catch him researching things online, how to support a pregnant friend, what to expect during different trimesters. He was preparing himself to help me, and that awareness made my chest ache with gratitude. One afternoon, I was sitting on the couch, sorting through pamphlets from various parenting classes, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Alan? It's Dr. Martinez from the clinic. Her voice was professional but warm. I wanted to follow up on your last appointment. Your blood work came back, and everything looks good, but you've been coming to appointments alone. Do you have a support system at home? I swallowed hard. Yes. My roommate has been helping me. That's wonderful. But Alan, I need to be direct with you. Pregnancy can be physically and emotionally demanding, especially for omegas. If you're doing this without a partner, you need to make sure you're taking care of your mental health too. Have you considered joining a support group? We have one specifically for single parents. Single parent. Hearing those words made it real in a way nothing else had. I'll think about it. Thank you, doctor. After hanging up, I sat there staring at the pamphlets in my hands. One of them was for single parent support groups. I'd picked it up weeks ago but hadn't seriously considered going. The idea of sitting in a room full of strangers admitting that I was doing this alone felt too vulnerable. But maybe that was exactly what I needed. That evening, Cade came home from work carrying takeout from my favorite restaurant. I know you've been craving their pasta, so I grabbed some on my way back. You're too good to me, I said, accepting the container gratefully. Someone has to make sure you're eating properly, he replied, settling onto the couch beside me. So, what's with all these pamphlets? My doctor called, suggested I join a support group for single parents. I picked at my pasta, suddenly not as hungry as I thought I was. Cade was quiet for a moment. And, what do you think about it? I think it sounds terrifying. Sitting there talking about my situation with strangers, admitting that the father of my child chose not to be involved. Or, Cade offered gently, it could be connecting with people who understand exactly what you're going through. People who won't judge you because they've been there too. I looked at him, this friend who'd shown up for me in ways I never expected. When did you get so wise? I've always been this wise. You just never noticed, he said with a grin, trying to lighten the mood. The next week, I found myself standing outside a community center, staring at a sign that read, Single Parents Support Group, Thursdays at 7 p.m. My heart was racing, and I almost turned around 3 times. But something, maybe desperation, maybe hope, pushed me through those doors. The room was small and welcoming, with a circle of chairs and about 8 people already seated. A woman with kind eyes and graying hair stood up when I entered. You must be Alan. I'm Patricia, the group facilitator. We're so glad you're here. She gestured to an empty chair. I sat down, acutely aware of everyone's eyes on me. But as the session started and people began sharing their stories, something inside me loosened. There was Marcus, an alpha raising his daughter alone after his omega partner passed away. There was Sam, a beta who'd adopted as a single parent. There was Rachel, an omega like me whose alpha had left when she was 5 months pregnant. When it was my turn to speak, the words came easier than I expected. I'm Alan. I'm 4 months along, and the father, he decided he wasn't ready. Gave me money and walked away. Rachel reached over and squeezed my hand. Money doesn't rock a baby to sleep at 3 in the morning, does it? No, I whispered. It doesn't. After the meeting, Rachel approached me. Hey, if you ever need to talk, here's my number. This journey is hard enough without trying to do it completely alone. Driving home that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Understood. These people didn't pity me or judge me. They just got it. Over the following weeks, I fell into a new rhythm. Work in the mornings, rest in the afternoons when fatigue hits. Support group on Thursdays, and prenatal classes on Saturdays where Cade came with me, pretending to be my partner so I wouldn't feel out of place. My apartment slowly started transforming, a crib box leaning against the wall, baby clothes folded in a drawer, a changing table still in its packaging. One night, I was organizing the nursery to be actually just clearing out the spare room that had been serving as storage, when I found an old photo. It was from a few months ago, Jerry and me at a restaurant. His arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something. I stared at it for a long time, at the happiness on both our faces, at how simple everything seemed back then. I should have been angry. Part of me was. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for my baby who would grow up with an absent father. Sad for Jerry who was missing out on something extraordinary because of his own fears. But as I placed my hand on my belly and felt a strong kick in response, I realized something important. My baby would be okay. We would be okay. Because I was learning to be strong enough for both of us, and I was building a support system of people who actually showed up. I didn't need Jerry's money. I didn't need his half-hearted attempts at responsibility. What I needed, I was creating myself, a life where my child would be wanted, loved, and surrounded by people who chose to be there. That night, I finally deleted Jerry's unanswered texts without reading them. It was time to stop waiting for someone who had already made their choice. It was time to fully commit to mine. 5 months pregnant, and my body was declaring it loudly now. The bump was unmistakable, round and firm, drawing stares wherever I went. Some looks were kind, others curious, a few judgmental when they noticed I wore no mating mark, no ring, no signs of a partner. I'd learned to ignore them, to hold my head high and keep walking. My omega scent had become so distinctly maternal that I'd stopped trying to suppress it completely. It was part of me now, part of this new identity I was building. Work had reduced my hours, which helped with the exhaustion that hit me like waves throughout the day. Cade had taken on more responsibilities at home, insisting I rest whenever possible. The support group had become my lifeline, a place where I could be honest about my fears without worrying about being a burden. It was a Tuesday evening when everything changed. I'd stopped at the grocery store on my way home, needing to pick up some supplies. The list was simple: milk, bread, those weird pickles I'd been craving, and ice cream. I was reaching for a jar on the top shelf when the dizziness hit. It came fast and hard, making the whole store tilt sideways. My vision blurred at the edges, turning everything fuzzy and distant. I felt my knees buckle, felt myself starting to fall, and then strong hands caught me, steadying me before I could hit the ground. Whoa, easy there. Are you all right? I blinked, trying to clear my vision, trying to focus on the face above me. And then my stomach dropped for an entirely different reason. Jerry. Alan? His eyes went wide with shock, then immediately dropped to my very visible pregnancy. Oh my God. I pushed away from him, forcing myself to stand on my own despite the lingering dizziness. I'm fine. I don't need your help. But even as I said it, another wave of dizziness crashed over me. This time, my legs completely gave out. Jerry caught me again, and this time he didn't let go. You're not fine. We're going to the hospital. Now. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him I could handle this myself, but my body had other ideas. The world was spinning, and I couldn't make it stop. The next thing I clearly remember was waking up in a hospital bed, an IV in my arm and the steady beep of a monitor beside me. My hand immediately went to my belly, panic rising until I felt the reassuring movement of my baby. The baby's okay. Jerry's voice came from the corner of the room. He was sitting in the visitor's chair, looking exhausted and worried. How long had I been out? What happened? My throat was dry, my voice rough. You passed out. Dehydration and low blood pressure. According to the doctor, they said it's dangerous, especially this far along. He stood up and moved closer to the bed, but kept a respectful distance. Ellen, why weren't you taking better care of yourself? I was taking care of myself, I snapped. Defensive. This just happens sometimes. You passed out in the middle of a grocery store. And why do you care? You haven't cared for the past 5 months. The words hung between us, sharp and accusatory. Jerry flinched like I'd slapped him. You're right, he said quietly. I haven't been there. I was a coward who ran when things got scary. But Alan, seeing you fall today, seeing you like this. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from when he was stressed. It made me realize what an idiot I've been. That's my son or daughter in there, and I've been nowhere. Realizing it 5 months later doesn't change what you did, I said, but my voice lacked the anger I wanted it to have. I was too tired, too overwhelmed. A doctor came in then, interrupting whatever Jerry was about to say. She checked my vitals, asked me questions about my diet and activity level, and gave me strict instructions about staying hydrated and resting more. Jerry listened to every word, nodding along like he had any right to be involved. After the doctor left, the silence stretched between us. I brought you here, Jerry finally said. Stayed while they ran tests. Called your roommate to let him know where you were. Cade's on his way, by the way. You talked to Cade? He deserves to know you're okay. He's been taking care of you, hasn't he? More than I have. There was something in his voice, regret, maybe, or shame. I looked at him properly for the first time since waking up. He looked different, tired. Older somehow, like the past few months had worn on him too. Why did you come back? I asked. To the grocery store, I mean. That's not your usual one. Jerry sat back down, and for a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I've been coming to that store every Tuesday for the past month. Same time, same day, hoping I might run into you. Hoping I'd get the courage to talk to you. That's stalking, Jerry. I know. I'm sorry. I needed to see you. To know you were okay. I know I don't deserve it. But Alan, I've been thinking about you every single Z. About what I gave up. What I walked away from. Thinking about me isn't the same as being there for me. I said, but something inside me was softening against my will. I know that too. And I know I don't have any right to ask this. But please, let me prove I can do better. Let me show you I can be the partner and father I should have been from the beginning. Before I could respond, Cade burst into the room, looking panicked. Alan, are you okay? What happened? His eyes landed on Jerry and his expression hardened. What are you doing here? He found me when I passed out. I explained quickly, not wanting a confrontation. Brought me to the hospital. Cade looked between us, clearly assessing the situation. Well, thanks for that, but I can take it from here. Cade, I said gently. It's okay. We were just talking. After Cade reluctantly backed down, Jerry stood to leave. I'll give you two some space. But Alan, I meant what I said. I want to be there. For both of you. As he walked out, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, just maybe, the smallest possibility of something more. Because despite everything, despite the hurt and abandonment, part of me still remembered the man I'd fallen for. And maybe, if he really had changed, there could be a future where our child knew their father. But trust, I knew, would take more than words. It would take time and proof and consistent action. And I wasn't sure Jerry understood just how much he needed to prove. The weeks following my hospital visit were strange. Jerry started showing up not intrusively but persistently. He'd text me every morning with simple messages, hope you slept well, or remembering to stay hydrated today. He sent groceries to my apartment, somehow knowing exactly what I'd been craving even though I'd never told him. Cade admitted reluctantly that Jerry had asked him what I needed, what would help. He started appearing outside my doctor's appointments, waiting in his car across the street. He never came to the door, never tried to force his way in, just sat there, as if his presence alone could somehow make up for his absence. I found it both frustrating and oddly touching. Rachel from my support group noticed the change in me. You seem distracted, she said after one Thursday session. Everything okay with the baby? Baby's fine. It's the father that's complicated. She raised an eyebrow. The one who gave you money and left? He's back, trying to be involved. And I don't know what to do about it. What does your gut tell you? I placed my hand on my belly, where our baby was doing what felt like gymnastics. My gut is confused. Part of me wants to slam the door in his face. Part of me wants to believe people can change. They can, Rachel said thoughtfully. But Alan, make sure he's changing for the right reasons. Not guilt, not obligation, but genuine desire to be a father and partner. Her words stayed with me. Was Jerry motivated by guilt? Or was this something deep? The answer came 2 weeks later. I was at home, finally starting to set up the nursery properly. Cade was helping me assemble the crib, a frustrating process involving unclear instructions and too many identical-looking screws, when my doorbell rang. I'll get it, Cade said, probably grateful for a break from furniture assembly. I heard voices at the door, then Cade returned looking skeptical. It's Jerry. He's asking to come in. Says he needs to show you something. My heart did an uncomfortable flip. Let him. Jerry entered carrying a folder, looking nervous in a way I'd never seen from him. The confident alpha I'd known seemed diminished somehow, more human and vulnerable. Thank you for seeing me, he said. I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted to show you this. He handed me the folder. Inside were receipts from a therapist's office. Multiple sessions over the past 2 months, with notes about topics discussed, commitment issues, fear of fatherhood, relationship anxiety. I've been seeing Dr. Reynolds twice a week, Jerry explained, working through why I reacted the way I did, why I ran. Turns out I have some deep-seated issues about responsibility that stem from my own father leaving when I was young. Not an excuse, just an explanation. I flipped through the receipts, stunned. This was more than I'd expected, more than just words and promises. There's more, he continued, pulling out another paper. I moved to a different apartment. Bigger place, 2 bedrooms. I set up the second room as a nursery. Nothing fancy yet, just the basics. But I wanted you to know that there's space for whenever you're comfortable with shared custody or visits or whatever arrangement works for you. He laid out photos on my coffee table. Images of a simple but carefully arranged room. A crib, a changing table, soft blue and yellow walls, a rocking chair by the window. Cade, who'd been standing protectively nearby, moved closer to look. You actually did this? Last week, Jerry confirmed. I know it doesn't fix what I did. I know I can't erase the past 5 months. But I'm trying to show you that I'm serious about being part of this child's life. I stared at the photos, at the tangible evidence of effort. Why now? What changed? Jerry sat down across from me, his hands clasped between his knees. Seeing you pass out terrified me in a way nothing else has. It made me realize that while I was busy being scared and selfish, you were dealing with everything alone. And our baby, his voice caught. Our baby is going to be here in a few months and I've missed so much already. The first ultrasounds, the first kicks, all of it. I don't want to miss anymore. It's not just about what you want, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've built a life here, a support system. I learned to do this without you. I can't just let you back in and risk getting hurt again when things get hard. I know, he said quickly, and I'm not asking you to trust me immediately. I'm asking for a chance to earn that trust. Let me come to doctor's appointments. Let me be there the birth. Let me prove that I can be reliable, that I won't run again. I looked at Cade, who shrugged. This is your call, Alan. But for what it's worth, actions speak louder than words. And these, he gestured to the receipts and photos, are action. Turning back to Jerry, I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Genuine humility. This wasn't the confident alpha who'd swept me off my feet with grand gestures and smooth words. This was someone who'd been broken down and was trying to rebuild himself into something better. Okay, I said slowly, but we do this my way, at my pace. You don't get to rush me or pressure me into anything. One mistake, one sign that you're falling back into old patterns, and you're out. Permanently. Understood. Completely understood. Jerry's relief was visible, his shoulders dropping from their tense position. And we're not getting back together, I added firmly. Not right now, maybe not ever. This is about you being a father, not about us being a couple. I accept that, he said, though I saw disappointment flicker across his face. Whatever you need. After Jerry left, with plans to meet me at my next doctor's appointment in 3 days, I sat quietly processing everything. Cade resumed working on the crib, giving me space to think. You okay? He finally asked. I don't know, I admitted. Am I being stupid? Letting him back in after everything? You're being hopeful, Cade corrected. There's a difference. Hope isn't stupid, Alan. It's brave. That night, lying in bed with my hand on my belly, I felt our baby moving. Those small flutters and kicks that never failed to amaze me. What do you think, little one? I whispered. Should we give your other dad a chance? The baby kicked in response, and I smiled. Maybe it wouldn't be easy. Maybe Jerry would mess up again, or maybe he'd prove himself worthy of being in our lives. Either way, I'd be okay, because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. I was strong enough to do this alone, which meant I was strong enough to do it with help too. And maybe, just maybe, our child deserved the chance to have both parents present, if Jerry could truly become the father he promised to be.